Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the Boot Nerds podcast. Jay, what's up?
What's up, guys? What's up, Josh? Glad to be back. And I'm excited. 13, it's an unlucky number, but today you guys can be lucky.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good podcast. As always, we ask you guys could like the podcast. That helps us out tremendously. And if you have a question that you'd like us to answer in the next episode, leave it down below. We pick the best ones. We answer a bunch of them in every single podcast.
Exactly.
Also, audio-only versions available at bootnerds.com.
Easy to remember.
Very easy to remember. But we do have a sponsor for today's podcast.
And big up to you guys, by the way.
Yeah, awesome. So EliteDuels.com, they are the world's first esports fantasy site. So pro esports right now, they really focus on Counter-Strike, but they are soon to be expanding into Overwatch, Rocket League, as well as Rainbow Six. So EliteDuels.com is the website. And basically this weekend, they're running a huge tournament, a whole bunch of programs basically for the CS Blast Pro series in Miami. They're giving away $10,000 in prizes.
10,000.
Yeah, so it's basically fantasy sports, which I'm sure you've probably played before at some point, Jay.
Definitely, but not anything to do with Counter-Strike. So can you kind of like elaborate a bit more what it's all about?
It's basically just like regular fantasy sports, but it's for esports. So the way that it works is you pick a team of 5, and each player is individually ranked from 1 to 5, 1 being the highest, 5 being the lowest tier. And you have to pick a player from each individual tier. And you basically get points based on their performance throughout the tournament. So it's 1 point for a kill, half a point for an assist, and then minus half a point every time that they die. So pretty straightforward, very easy to follow. And they actually live update all of this information as the tournament is happening. So you can actually watch the results of your picks for this whole fantasy tournament thing. It's actually very cool how it all works. And for the viewers of the podcast, if you use coupon code NERDS, when you deposit $5 to enter the tournament, you get $2 free. And they have tournaments that are free, $1 entry, $5 entry, and a $50 entry. So obviously the more you buy in, the bigger the possible prize pool is, but very cool, very easy to do. And right now you have to go to EliteDuels.com, but right now they are in the process. They're soon to be dropping an iOS and an Android app so you can play on your phone as well.
Good stuff. Okay. And that's easy to remember. EliteDuels.com, they battle it out, or duel, and it's the best players in Counter-Strike out there. So EliteDuels.com. It's easy to remember. That sounds pretty cool if you're into that.
Yeah, and that is linked in the description as well. So go ahead and check that out. Coupon code NERDS. Get $2 free when you deposit $5.
All right. And with those words, and a big thank you to the guys at EliteDuels.com for sponsoring this episode. Big up. We should probably jump into today's topic, which is a bit of a funny one because it's kind of been all over the internet since the boot spots came out there. You've probably seen it in the title. But what are these blackout boots that we've seen Nainggolan and Eden Hazard wearing? Probably some new vapors, I would guess, since it's Hazard wearing them. But we've had kind of a talk behind the scenes about these. What's your apparent take on it? The new boots here.
I'm a little bit surprised to see them so early, because Nike has really been on a 2-year cycle for their boots for as long as I can remember. So to see them so soon is very, very interesting. I'm excited. I'm very optimistic based on how these look because they remind me so much of the Flyknit Ultra.
And I agree. And we've probably all seen the pictures out there. I'm going to leave it on the screen right now for those of you who are watching on YouTube. For those of you listening to the audio-only version, they're basically blackout boots, and they seem to have a different texture than the current Vapor 12 Elites. So they seem, from the shape of it, to look somewhat like the Vapor 12 Elites, but have a different texture on the upper. And also it looks like there is actually a fuller, should we say more, there's more coverage of silicone than there looks to be on the Vapor 12 Elite, just from what we can see on the pictures. So it does look very, very interesting and still has this like really sleek silhouette look of the Vapor 12 Elites. Assuming, of course, that this is a new Vapor model and not something coming completely out of left field from Nike that we have no clue about.
Yeah, well, because it looks so much, it's basically the Flyknit Ultra, but with the lines going the other way.
Yeah.
Right? The length of the boot, the length of the boot rather than directly across.
Yeah.
So it did cross my mind that maybe this is them testing out a Flyknit Ultra 2.
Could be interesting. Especially seeing that Eden Hazard is basically, he was the face of the Flyknit Ultra.
Yes, he was one of the main guys, right? And I think it's also important to note that everybody who was wearing these, because it was Hazard, the guy's name I can't say very well. You said it excellently, so I'm not going to
Radja Nainggolan.
That's the one. And then Brozović was also wearing them.
Brozović was also wearing it. Yeah, that's true.
And all of those guys currently wear the Vapor 12 Elite. So I think that's, with that information, we can more or less assume that this is probably a next-gen Vapor.
Yeah.
Because it only makes sense to have the pros wearing the current model to test out the next model.
And why would it make sense for them to make a Flyknit Ultra 2 when, you know, the current Vapor is already made out of Flyknit? I mean, back in the Vapor 11 days, it made sense to kind of have the transition and see the reception from people with the Flyknit Ultra to go make basically a Vapor 11 in Flyknit. And people loved it, which was a good sign for Nike to introduce the first knit Vapor, right? But right now, would it be enough of a USP to have a Flyknit Ultra 2 other than, you know, everyone freaking out about the ones? I'm not really sure that would be a good strategy from them, to be honest.
Well, I thought the original Flyknit Ultra was just kind of a weird thing in general, because it seems like that's a lot of like R&D time to come up with something that different from anything we had seen from Nike. It's not like a Nike GS or a GS 360 where it's a wearable product, but it's almost kind of a concept boot where it's like, we don't actually want everybody to have these. But the Flyknit Ultra was like, you could make the argument, and we did in the last episode when we talked about the best Mercurial, that the Flyknit Ultra might be the best Mercurial model ever made.
Absolutely. But I think here that, you know, you had the tooling, which is often where, you know, most of the R&D goes into. That's often the most expensive thing of opening up, you know, new sizes, new toolings. You have the Flyknit technology. You basically have more or less the blueprint from the Vapor 11 with the speed rips going across. You just need to... I mean, I kind of felt like half of the work was done with Flyknit Ultra because they would already be ready to, or have the technology to do the Vapor 12 with Flyknit. We saw more or less the same tongue construction, so it was just more a question of you know, making different speed ribs going across the boot with the more aggressive texture on the Flyknit Ultra. At least that's how I interpreted it back in the days.
I don't know. It's weird because after we got Flyknit Ultra and kind of Nike hinted that, hey, the next Vapor, we always knew the Superfly was going to be Flyknit, but hey, maybe the Vapor will be Flyknit as well, which I think it makes sense based on how things have trended. I was a little bit disappointed in terms of what they did. Not to say that the Vapor 12 Elite is bad, but
it's a great boot.
I think it doesn't take the Flyknit aspect of it far enough. And that's where I think the Flyknit Ultra did a really good job, where it's like, it's not a Tasian synthetic Vapor like we're used to seeing and that a lot of people want, but it feels so good that I'm not mad at it. Whereas the Flyknit Upper and the Vapor 12 Elite, it has the stiffness and almost plasticky feel to a certain extent of the Tasian synthetic, but without the same kind of touch.
I know exactly what you mean. Basically, the Flyknit Ultra gave you everything that was good about the Vapor 11 and everything that was good about Flyknit. So it was in truth a Flyknit Vapor 11, where this has been, you know, it's gone kind of away from that. Everything that made the Vapor 11 so good kind of tweaked the shape, the last of the boot. It feels like a little bit. There's a little bit more roomy and stuff. So you know, I love the Vapor 12 Elites. It's a fantastic boot, but I also still feel the Flyknit also, they were the pinnacle of what Nike have done with Flyknit so far. But, you know, going back to the new Blackouts here, I think they look very, very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah,
I'm excited for it. I mean, it does look in a lot of ways very similar to the current Vapor. What my hopes are is I think that the upper should be a little bit softer. I'd like to see that more like the Flyknit Ultra, because I liked that aspect of the boot. And that, to me, if you're going to have a knitted upper, it shouldn't feel stiff. It shouldn't be so soft that you lose out the responsiveness aspect of a Mercurial. But I think that the Flyknit Ultra was kind of that happy medium of soft and responsiveness. And I also loved the extra grip from the Flyknit Ultra. And I hope that these lines that we see on this next Vapor will maintain that grip.
Exactly. And I think one of the reasons why the Flyknit Ultra could be so relatively soft compared to the Vapor 12, which when you break it in is nice and soft, but it takes a little while, right? I think it's also because they had more structural integrity because of the ribs being a little bit harder and more sturdy. So so they gave you that little bit of, and also because they went across the boot instead of, you know, with the length direction of the boot. So it gave you a little bit more like also especially in the sides, like a little bit more structure out there, a little bit something to prevent that moving inside the boot, so the knit itself could be a little bit softer. So here's hoping that the same thing goes for for whatever Hazard is wearing on his feet.
Yeah, Vapor 13, Phantom Vapor is possible, very possible.
Phantom Mercurial.
Yeah, get rid of all the vowels.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you saw any of the pictures of the bottom. It looks like it maintains a split sole still. Doesn't look like they're getting rid of that. And this trying to zoom in on the stud pattern is tricky, especially because they're all black. It was really difficult to see exactly what it was. But again, kind of going off Nike's normal trends of two generations for one stud pattern. While the split sole is different than what we had on the Vapor 11 and the Superfly, the stud pattern stayed pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty likely that this new version will probably have a new stud pattern.
It's not out of the realm of possibility, at least I would say. But also, if this looks to be somewhere in the same line, like if we usually say we have this a 2-year cycle on the generations of the boots, right? You know, the new Vapor 12 outsole was I think technically a new way of doing things. It had the same stop pattern. It was based off of the Vapor 11 plate, but just took out the middle part basically. But I could imagine that if this is just what should we say, generational tweak like adidas is doing with the Predator, for instance, then it would make sense to do the same tooling, because that would be a whole lot cheaper for them.
Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking maybe because they did have that stud pattern on the GS 360,
which was lovely, by the way.
Yeah, maybe we get some, because again, that's just a variation of what we have now with the Mercurial.
Would be very interesting, but would it then make sense if this is just like a tweaked update with a few minor details updated here and there? Would it then make sense to introduce a new tooling right now instead of waiting to do so and introduce like a completely new direction for the tooling with a bang when they also have a newer concept for the upper? Do you know what I mean?
No, I get what you mean. And I guess you got to look at it from different perspectives. From the consumer's perspective, yeah, it absolutely makes sense because people are going to be excited about a new stud pattern. From Nike's perspective, if they change enough to the upper, I don't think people are going to mind as much. So it's whether or not Nike wants to spend more money or less money, basically. That's what it comes down to. I think we know the answer
to that question, yeah.
Yeah, right? I think every brand, they want to cut. And Nike's pretty good about, I feel, not cutting corners with new models. But if they're going to shorten the lifespan of the boots, then they're going to eventually have to start having more similarities to the previous model.
Cutting corners, my man. Dynamic fit collar on the Vision.
Yeah, I get. Well, that's you know what? That's you can't even say that's cutting a corner. That's extra effort to even add that in.
But it's just it just feels so flimsy and cheap.
Yeah, it just straight up shouldn't be there. It's not a.
I know. For me, it's like, if you want to put it there, at least make it with some high super duper quality of flyness. This feels like a circular knit that's low quality. It's just flimsy. Don't just cut it out, man.
Yeah,
I'm sick of it.
That's a dumb thing for sure.
Yeah, I can't. Absolutely.
But yeah, I guess what we should talk about, because that's pretty much all you can make out from these pictures. We've only seen a blackout next gen Vapor.
Sure.
Does that mean that we're going to get a Superfly as well? Because it looks like, based on the construction of that boot being so similar to the Vapor 12, that they could just easily add a collar like they've done right now.
Are we ready? Is the market ready for another killing off of the Superfly? Personally, I don't think so. I don't see the Superfly being as popular as the Vapor anymore. But if it ever was more popular than the Vapor, but I don't feel that we're ready as a market yet to kill off, should we say, one of the standout high cut boots yet. But where are you on this one? I
kind of agree with you, where I feel like consumers expect a Superfly at this point.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it was funny when they did the Superfly 1, 2, 3. Because as a kid growing up, I always thought, oh my gosh, those are the coolest things ever.
I know.
Even though every time I actually got to try them, it was like, it's a don't meet your heroes situation, right?
Yeah.
And then they got rid of it. But when they brought it back, because the Superfly 4 was so important to what football boots have become over the last 5 years, I think people would be a little bit mad to see them get rid of it. And the whole mid-cut thing is still pretty popular. And even though the Superfly and the Vapor are effectively the same exact thing, minor differences.
And this is, I think, a very important point I think you're trying to get to, is that if they need to kill the Superfly, the Vapor needs to really take over and be something like the Vapor generation, where they kill off the Superfly. Again, if they intend to, I have no idea. But if they do that, the Vapor needs to be flipping, standout, innovative, fantastic. I mean, it needs to be the next dynamic fit color thing that they're going to introduce to kill off the Superfly. It has to be that important for me.
Yeah. I guess maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but this is what I would really like to see. Keep the Vapor. It's all you can kind of expect the Vapor to be a solid boot, 99% chance. I'm not too worried about it. But I really always thought it was cool. And it's only just this current generation of Mercurial where they changed that, where the Vapor and the Superfly were two very different boots with the same base concept. I loved that. So keep the Vapor at 250 and maybe add the 350 on the Superfly, but make it just the highest tech possible thing ever.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because that's to me what the Superfly always has been. And this time around with the Superfly 6, as good as a boot that it is, it doesn't have the wow factor of maybe the 5 before it.
Exactly. It feels a little bit redundant compared to the Vapor, because the only thing you get for the extra money and considerable amount of money you already pay is the color. And, I'd rather live without the color, but only like the Superfly a little bit more because it's slightly softer than the Vapor. That's it. And for me, it's a nice boot. And if it had only been the Superfly on the market, people would still be going, oh man, it's so amazing. Oh. But with the Vapor being as good as it is, it's just, where is the USP for the Superfly? Where is the wow, oh my God, this is the sickest stuff I've ever seen in my life thing, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I'd like to see some carbon fiber on the Superfly 7.
Yeah, I know.
If that's possible. That'd be cool.
No. Even just give us some glass. I don't know. Just something that isn't on the Vapor that justifies the Superfly being that extra next level, something that not everyone has. So when you wear them, people are they're not turning heads anymore, and they used to. And they should get back to that with the Superfly, I feel.
Yeah. The Superfly used to be like, that's the boot from space, and it's not that anymore.
And when you wore that, even though how much you sucked and you just wore those, and people were just, honestly, they were looking at you and they were just thinking. It was like with the Predators back in the day. You just thought, okay, this kid, he has got to have, so everyone just looked at the boots and they loved them because they looked so outrageously spacey, and it was just that extra little bit of jazz thing on top that I loved it. Yeah, and this is what we need to get back to.
Yeah, even with all the blood just flowing out from the cracks from your feet bleeding, it was still cool.
Yeah. Maybe they can also try too hard with the Nike Sense Studs and all that. Don't go there, but make it cool, Nike.
Yeah,
I think the Superfly needs a revival, and maybe it's time to go into hibernation for a couple of years until they have this like super duper killer technology to bring it back. Maybe it should just be like every 2 or 4th year they come out when they have something really kick-ass.
Yeah.
And this is like their concept car thing. They come out for a year or two, and then they kill it off again, roll it out on the main lines until they can really bring it back with a bang.
And you know what? As much as I'd like Nike to surprise us all, Nike's also somewhat predictable when it comes to football boot technology, because they usually roll that technology out into other forms of footwear. And right now, the only thing that they're really pushing as like super innovative and new is the self-lacing thing. And that's not going to make it on a football boot, I don't think, anytime soon.
Nah, like we discussed in an earlier podcast, it's just never going to happen until they refine it a lot. Yeah.
There is one other thing to talk about, though, with this, and that was the boots Brozović was wearing, which I'm sure you would have noticed. He pulled the laces out.
Yeah.
So
what a tool, man.
I wasn't super familiar with the boots that he wore, so I went and did a little bit of research, and it turns out he's currently wearing the Vapor 12 with no laces as well. Yeah. So that to me kind of got rid of the worry that maybe the next Mercurial is going to be available in a laceless variation. I don't see that happening.
That would suck.
And the fact that the boots that he was wearing had the lace holes still. I mean, granted, it could be a complete throw off from Nike where they put the lace holes there so nobody expects, people like us don't speculate on, it's actually a laceless boot. But yeah, I just think it's a little bit strange where Nike would, hey, we want you to test out our next generation Mercurial, and then the guy just pulls the laces out. Yeah, it completely defeats the whole purpose of the Mercurial line.
But it's like Marco Reus wearing his future boots laceless. I mean, the point is to use the genius of laces. Why on earth do you wear them lace? I mean, sometimes players just have weird preferences, but from my point of view, like, Nike will never ever go laceless. I mean, hell is gonna freeze over a couple of times before that's gonna happen because it's such an Adidas thing.
Yeah, I think they've cemented that as their thing. And I don't know if you read, I'm sure you did, you read the press release when they launched the Phantom Vision. And they mentioned in that press release that early prototypes were laceless. Yeah. And the feedback they got from the pros they had test them out was, this sucks, we don't want laceless boots, put the laces back in. Which I think is like, that's the subtle jab that like, hey, laceless boots suck and we're not doing it, right? And a lot of people did not pick up on that, which I thought that was the funniest part of that whole release.
Pretty hilarious.
But there are still, Jay, I swear, there's like 10 comments a day where people are asking or suggesting that the Phantom Vision is a laceless boot. It's like people don't realize it just because the laces are covered up.
Oh,
okay. And I guess it's understandable if you've never seen the boots in person, because you look at online and every picture of the boot always has the laces tucked in underneath, right? So you never really see it.
It's fair. I actually think it's fair. It's just, yeah, I get it. Fair enough.
But yeah, I don't see the next generation Mercurial being laceless.
I agree. And I think on that note, holding in my hands the new Euphoria Mode Pack here from Nike, I think we should talk a little bit about that because it's a beautiful pack, right?
Yeah, they look like blue boots that I wore during the wintertime and I walked through the snow.
Yeah. Is it still snow in Canada, by the way?
Possibly snow this week, but probably not. Hopefully not.
I personally think that these look awesome. You know, like white and then some color splashes never killed anyone. And it just looks absolutely amazeballs.
Yeah, I think they look good. I've heard some criticism that people think it's not the most original colorway.
What?
But the people that say that, honestly, like, do you really expect every month's colorway to be the most original, never been done before thing ever?
Yeah,
it's just not doable at this point. I do agree that how many orange Mercurials is Nike going to put out? It's getting a little bit out of hand at this point.
Well, if it works.
Yeah, but it does. I don't hate it. That's for sure.
Let's take a moment to appreciate that the side swoosh is back. How good does the side swoosh look compared to the toe swoosh?
Yeah, it looks way better. It's no comparison, honestly.
This is what a Mercurial should look like. I'm just saying. And for once, I actually think that one of the strongest looking boots in the pack is obviously the Mercurial, but also, and I cannot believe the words are coming out of my mouth, the Phantom Vision. I think this is a very strong look, especially if you've done this, tucked away the collar, and look at this. Not too shabby.
Yeah, it incorporates the triangle really nicely as well, I think. Usually that's kind of like the odd man out in the colorways. It looks okay on that boot.
I know. You don't actually see it.
No, they just blended it in.
Not really. Yeah, it's just actually, that's a good point. I think it's what I also noticed when I was sat with this in my hand, right? Because this is obviously the control boot from Nike. You notice it's white, it's blue, and it's got some splatter on the outsole. White and blue splatter. Now, which other boot made for control out there is also white and blue with some splatter on the outsole?
What a coincidence. Oh my gosh. The Ace, the Adidas Ace. I mean Predator.
Look, it's white, it has blue.
Yeah, that is, it's funny how similar the two packs are.
And it's just, this is not the first time or the last time this will ever happen. I just think it's funny how it always coincides. You know, it's like this, there are just these seasonal colors that all the brands use.
That's what I think it is. I think that these brands, they spend a lot of money doing market research on projections of which colors are going to be popular at which time of year. If any of that is even logical, I don't know. It seems kind of crazy to even think that, but maybe there's some kind of study out there that proves that humans are more likely to buy blue boots at this time of the year rather than red ones. I don't know, but that's the only explanation.
Honestly, whoever found out this or whoever is accurate with these market, pop, color, whatever predictions, they deserve every dollar they make, because that's like, I don't know how you would do that. So kudos to these guys. I just think it's funny. Obviously, the vision is more blue than the Predator, but it's just funny that the concept is more or less the same with a little bit of splatter. And you can argue that the Pred looks a little bit more classy, but yeah, it's funny. It's almost also the same shade of blue.
They look good though. I like both packs. I'm not hating on any of them.
And I'm just saying, there's also like this reddish theme with the Nemesis and obviously it's not the same. It's funny. And I agree, both Virtuso and the Euphoria Mode Pack, which is made to like celebrate this, end of the season vibe where everyone is fighting for trophies. Oh, we're so happy we're winning Euphoria, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be used in the Champions League semis and the final. If I'm informed correctly. So that's pretty cool.
So who copied who?
See, that's the thing. Did anyone copy anyone? Because what people got to realize is that obviously Adi came first. Technically, they released their boots to the world first. So some people could argue that, oh, Nike, you just copied Adi. But it's not going to be like that, because these boots have been finalized for, I don't know, a year plus. So obviously, they probably know what the other guys are doing, and, with all these, like, trends and color design trends, I don't know. They will be informed about what the other guys are doing. Are they copying each other? I don't necessarily think so, because it wouldn't benefit either of them, because they both want to be first moves, right? But
yeah, I don't think it's a copy situation.
What do you think? Because you always have the controversial opinion, my man. So give me some juice.
I don't think anyone copied anyone. I think it's funny. I think it's funny how people. No, but I do think it's funny how, like, Adidas releases this week and then Nike releases the week after, and clearly that was just a response to Adidas, and Nike produced all these boots in the span of a week and put them out to the public.
Yeah.
Like, you can see they can't hide the production date on the size tag. And
no,
I mean, they're probably made 1 month, 3 months ago and planned 2 years ago. Like,
yeah.
It's purely coincidence, sort of, I guess. But at the same time, I think you're right in that both brands are fully aware of everything that they're putting out over the next probably 5 years. Yeah. And they are making sure that they have a response to every one of their releases.
Yeah, and again, if they are making like market research and talking to agencies on which colors will trend when, it is more than a coincidence, but it's not probably something that they are willingly doing, if you know what I mean. Yeah. They're probably both thinking, let's do our thing and do what we think is right. We'll shift units, and then if the other guys do the same thing, okay, so be it. Let's hope we're better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ultimately about selling as many boots as possible. So
exactly, and it's fair game. I think it's fair game.
That's business.
So which pack is cooler? Do you think Virtuso or Euphoria?
Honestly, I lean more towards Virtuso. I just think it looks cleaner.
I would tend to agree with you, but I really like the splatter effect on Euphoria. So I think Nike is edging it here.
Okay, fine. We disagree.
All right.
This will be the last episode of Boot Nerds.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been very nice. So basically, you didn't take offense in me mocking you for having controversial opinions, but okay.
We're good.
Should we jump into some questions? Yeah, I have a couple of questions from our lovely viewers and listeners.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
And if you do have a question that you haven't asked yet, but you've made it this far into the podcast for some reason, ask a question. What the heck?
Yeah, leave a like. What the heck? Make sure to subscribe to the channel. No. First question here is, why don't you think Mizuno have many big name players in their boots? Is it marketing? Because Mizuno, in my opinion, has the highest build quality of all boots. And I think, Mackenzie, that is not just in your opinion. I think both Josh and I agree that Mizuno make the highest quality boots out there. I think a lot of people agree. But the thing is, why don't they have that many pro players wearing their boots? Is it just marketing, or what is it? Are the pros just, are we more clear-sighted than the pros, or are we wrong? Are the pros right? What's going on?
The answer is money. Money is the answer.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Nike and Adidas and Puma, and I would say most brands other than Mizuno just spend way more money having players wear their boots. That's what it comes down to.
Yep. With that said, it doesn't mean the Mizuno boots aren't as good. In fact, I think as like overall quality on the market, it doesn't get better than Mizuno. Like all their boots are just up there, maybe save for the Rebula. But you know, Mizuno Morelli 2s, the Neo 2s, and the Wave Cups. Basically, even the Monasida, the made in Indonesia boots, are also really, really flipping good. So it's just, I think, you said it. It's all about money, and I think, you know, also maybe that we don't really see. I think a lot of Asian players are endorsed by Mizuno, so that's kind of like their big market, and maybe, you know, they're slowly trying to get into the US and especially the European market. But it's also a difficult market, right? Because endorsing players, you also need players to know and have a little bit of affection for the boots, and if they've been raised with Nike and Adidas and Puma and all the other brands, then you need to have you need an edge, and that edge would be money, or simply the word spreading about Mizuno being some of the best boots out there. And I think that's what guys like you and me are trying to do, spread the word that, hey, here is actually a super underrated brand.
I think it's hard to pull people away from the brands that they grew up with.
Whereas
in the Asian markets, Mizuno's like, they're kind of like the home team, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like people are more likely to buy a Mizuno product because they want a brand that's based in their country or their part of the world.
Yeah. And they have been raised with everything Mizuno. It's just like all over the place over there. And so it makes sense.
Yeah. Although I do think it's cool because we have seen a couple big name pros, as soon as they came out of contract, they're training in blacked out Mizunos, which I thought was awesome. We saw Rafinha recently do that, where he got in trouble.
Big trouble.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I know Iniesta's now wearing Asics, but when he left Barca and his contract was done with Nike, was he not training in Morelias?
I think we all thought he was training in Morelias, but I think they were Asics X-Fly 3s.
Were they Asics?
I thought they were Asics, yeah. I might have missed it, but I think there's also Fernando Torres, of course, who instantly went into Mizuno's and is now, I think, under contract with them. Yeah, he is. He must be, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So definitely, yeah. And that's fun to see, and it just goes to draw a big fat line under the fact that Mizuno just flipping works. It just delivers. It's just fantastic value for money.
Yeah, it's good stuff. If you're into leather boots and you haven't tried Mizuno yet,
yeah, you're missing out.
Yeah.
Honestly. Do yourself a favor. Now, next question here. Graham S. Name a greater rivalry than Nike and Vowels.
Took me a second to get that one.
so I really funny. I thought of a few actually. I thought Joma and Original Boot Concepts.
Yeah. Oh, Jay, I have. Okay, if you're watching this, I guess it's a teaser for what's coming on my channel. But I have the next Joma Champion Max ready to go. I'm so excited to put it up, but I have to wait for the right moment. But there is something new coming. It's another extremely unique design. You'll have never seen it before, trust me. But I'm excited. It's going to be cool.
This is like edge of the seat stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be awesome.
Okay, there's another one. There's Under Armour, obviously, and Zippers. That's a really
Under Armour and zippers.
that's a really big rival. And there's Josh and Jay and ACC.
Yeah. ACC.
I mean, I don't know if it's that much of a rivalry. It's just clearly one being in the right and the other one being very, very wrong.
I guess me versus laceless boots.
I mean, yeah, I guess you versus a lot of things, actually. but again, you know, yeah. I thought it was a fun question.
That's a good question, yeah.
Moving on here, Mitchell Mosley, sorry, I'm blind. Do you think a remake of the Vapor 3 is possible? And I would say anything is possible. The question is, does it make sense? And the simple answer to that question, to quote a good friend of mine, would be yes.
I think Nike can remake any old Mercurial and sell it.
And they would sell... They could make 5,000 pairs and they would fly off the shelves.
Yeah. Although I would love if they remade exactly like the original. With that foam SpongeBob padding at the back that makes you bleed. Just so everyone can experience that again. Just to realize how far football boots have come. Because a lot of people look back and that's like the golden age of the Mercurial series, but
yeah.
Man, I think once you actually get those on your feet and try to run around in them, you'll be like, oh my God, what the heck's wrong with me?
Fantastic boot, fantastic technology. The only Vapor they shouldn't remake is the Force because they sucked. And anyone who likes them sucks. Yeah, well, this is probably also a big rivalry. Us on the Vapor 3 and the Vapor 4.
Vapor 3 and 4, yeah.
Vapor 3 and 4, yeah. Never ending story. Good question here. Shrek asks... Hey guys, quick question regarding laceless boots. Would it be a good idea to go down half a size on a laceless boot to get potentially tighter fit, so more lockdown? Now, I also covered this a little bit in my my video I did on Unisport for the future without laces. I mean, can't you just get a tighter fit and thus get more lockdown? And yeah, I mean, you can get a tighter fit, but it's also gonna suck comfort-wise, and if the boot isn't built to be laceless, it's not going to magically solve everything. I mean, it's still not optimized for being laceless.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a flawed question to begin with, because if you're wearing any boot, laces or laceless, and you have the ability to go half size down, you're just wearing your boots a half size too big.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like there's it's not the issue with laceless boots and lockdown, whether it's a laceless boot to begin with or you're just pulling the laces out of a laced boot, the reason why the lockdown is not good is because there's nothing physically locking your foot in place, whether or not the boots are exactly the right size or 3 sizes too big or 3 sizes too small.
Yeah.
Like the same issue still is the issue.
Yeah. And okay, you will slide a little less around the boot because there will be less space for your foot to slide around in, so to speak, but it doesn't mean it's going to work better, I would say. It's just, it's just the wrong size and it's going to be extremely uncomfortable for you very, very quickly. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not to say that laceless boots are all terrible, because I don't think that's the case. I think there's lots of people that wear them, they like them, and if that's the type, if you don't mind or you'd like the feel of something that's not super tight on your feet, which a lot of people do seem to like these days, then yeah, you'll probably like your laceless boots. But if you like that super locked in feel, laceless boots are just not the way to go.
And that's just a preference. It's like going high cut or low cut. Just don't take your laces out of the Puma Future because it's not built for it and it's going to suck. Yeah,
but sizing with any performance flaw, I guess, sizing is never going to fix that issue.
Nah, you're right. So yeah. That's a pretty good answer to that. Now I have one more question from Captain Mufasa. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the name Captain Mufasa. Okay.
Excellent name.
You guys probably have to consistently change boots for reviews. Do you get enough time to break in a boot thoroughly before review? Because it took me about a month to break in my Tiempos. I initially hated them. Then they became my favorite pair after a month of break-in period of training, playing 4 times a week. That's a lot, by the way. Do you guys ever experience or a change in opinion after wearing a certain boot for an extended period of time? So a couple of questions in one. Let's start with the first one. Do we ever have enough time to properly it's called a break in a boot?
For the most part, I would say yeah. Mainly because I think most modern football boots, especially the high-end ones, there's not as much to break in anymore. Like, especially if they're all knitted and mesh-based uppers, it's kind of soft to begin with, right? So it's more so, I don't even want to call it as much of a break-in period as it is more so just kind of getting used to the way that they feel.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think you're probably with me on this where your feet are so used to breaking in new boots and so battle hardened that maybe something that a normal person would experience during the break-in process, we don't notice as much.
I think it's a good point. Obviously, I like to have boots with me for the longest period of time because, you know, breaking in a boot, you know, all things being equal, does give you a better, I would say, overview of how it's going to feel for most people out there buying the boot. I mean, what is it going to be like for people who might only have that or two pairs of boots per season? I mean, they're going to really break in that boot and get like the full experience out of it. So I always try to get it, but it's not always it happens. I usually have them for 3 weeks to a month of heavy testing before I do a review, optimally. But I also think that we know now what to look for. So even though a boot might be a little stiff in the beginning, but we can feel that once we play in it, it's gonna soften up and thus is gonna break in. It kind of comes with experience and like this fingertip sensation of, okay, we know what is gonna happen down the road with this boot because it's happened so many other times with other boots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we've both worn enough boots at this point where it's like, I can simply just try them on and 90% of my opinion is more or less formed.
Yeah, I would say that's not a wrong thing for me either. I kind of feel the same way. With that said, however, I do feel sometimes that a boot can change my opinion when I've had long enough time with it to realize that, okay, this needs a bit of break in time. Future 19.1, for instance, initially pretty stiff. Not my cup of tea. I'm gonna be completely honest. But even you know, it only needed like I would say 5-6 hours of breaking and you know heating up with the foot, and the material softens up a lot, and it's a great boot after that point. You just need to get over the edge, so to speak. So yeah, a boot can really change my opinion after some break-in time, either short or long.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think it's important to give your opinion once you feel fully comfortable in that boot.
Yeah.
That's important for sure.
Yeah.
As far as opinions changing over time, almost every boot, my opinion changes after like 3 months.
Oh yeah.
Like,
but that's
normal.
also, and this is why we as reviewers, we have to be careful not getting should we say, carried away with you know how a boot feels if it's very unique at the time we test it. And it's also why it's a good idea to test it over a longer period of time. Maybe also going back to wearing something you know and feel comfortable in between, so you can constantly get, you know, this new fresh input, like mental input of how the boots feel and perform. Because this is the dangerous part that you know, I remember 3 or 4 years ago when I was testing boots, you know, I was initially blown away by how amazing and new they felt. And then after 5 or 6 months, I was like, yeah, okay, it's not that special anyway, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the hype. And I think your opinion naturally will change because I think we're always asked to, okay, here's the latest product, review it right now. I want to know your opinion as soon as possible. But then 3-4 months from now, okay, now there's a new Nemesis and there's a new Mercurial and there's new Tiempo and there's all these new boots. How does it compare to the brand new Phantom Venom that everyone's hyped about at the moment, right? And then maybe based on what has come out and how the market has changed a little bit, your opinion on the Venom, maybe it stays the same, it gets a little bit better, or hey, it's, you know what, these are actually a little bit better than what the Phantom did 4 months ago.
Yeah. And let me put it this way, with the Phantom Vision, that's a pretty good example. Let me just grab it here. Because initially I thought it did a lot of things well. But you know, I also soon realized that even though I like the softness of the upper, I like the quad fit system, I hate the dynamic fit collar, whatever they call it, it just isn't the boot for me because it's simply too roomy and I think it feels a little plasticky and flimsy and, you know, I'm not really that into it. So it's also like a fine line of having this objective view of seeing the boot for what it is and what it does right, if you know what I mean, and also maybe realizing, okay, this boot is just not the one for me. So it can also sometimes feel like that we appreciate the boot for what it is, but then 5 months down the line when we don't have to deliver a verdict right there now, we get more personal and say, okay, I'm not necessarily too fond of it, but it does this and this well. If you know what I mean.
I think that's a great way to approach a review. Is it has to be a good mix of this is objectively good about the boot, and then here's personally what I like and dislike. And the personal opinion, I guess, matters if you're watching somebody consistently and you're curious about their opinion or you value their opinion on what they specifically like.
Yes.
But like, I don't really care for the Predator line, period, right now. Doesn't make them bad. It's just not really my thing, right? And you dislike the Phantom Vision. I really like that boot.
Yeah. And this is also where we, you know, gotta realize our responsibility in the sense that a lot of people actually, and thank you for that, by the way, for some weird reason, listen and act on what we have to say. So we gotta acknowledge the fact that even though we might not like it, there will be some people out there who will like it because of some other, because they're looking for other things that we do. So it's always like this very fine line of looking at it from an objective side and also taking in our own personal opinion. And when we do have a personal opinion, and especially when we don't like something, it's very important that we explain why we don't like it, but also that some people with other foot shapes or looking for something else will appreciate this stuff. It's actually a good idea for maybe we should make a video on this one day because there's a lot of thinking that goes into what makes a good review.
Yeah, and I think it's also important because a lot of people, I don't know if you ever get this, but I get, depending on the video, depending on what the review is and what my opinion was, this guy hates Adidas or this guy hates Nike or this guy hates X brand because of a negative review. If I give a negative review of a product that I, for whatever reasons that I'd probably explain in my review, didn't think was very good, I'm telling you that because there are other products that I think are better that you should buy instead. It's not a personal attack at like, you bought this boot and I don't think it's very good, therefore I hate you. That's not what it is.
But look at it from the buyer's and the viewer's experience.
Yeah, I get it.
Would they wanna they want you as a reviewer to go out and say, this and this, but I love Adidas, so it's an okay boot? Then they go out and buy it, and there are some flaws with the boot that they would have wanted to know about. Then they still get mad at you, and you're losing anyway. So it's also about understanding that us pointing out that something necessarily doesn't work isn't an attack on the brands or attack on the boot. It's just how we feel, and usually, hopefully, we also manage to say what is then good about the boot or which people will enjoy the features and the tech and the fit and the feel and the touch of the boot.
Yeah, I think a proper review breaks down the technical side of things. It talks about objectively what's good and bad. There's a personal opinion aspect to it, and then it's totally up to the viewer to take that information and make a decision based on that. Because as the reviewer, and I think you'll agree, it makes no difference to me if you buy this boot from Nike or that boot from Adidas or this one from Puma. I just want to give you the best possible advice based on the opinion and the information I'm providing in my review.
Exactly. And basically it's all about sharing the years of experience we have been blessed with having playing in a lot of football boots. It's all about sharing the love, really. It sounds cheesy, but that's basically why we do. I mean, why else would we do it? It's about giving people the best experience, getting the right boot for them that we possibly can. Yeah. That's the only mission we have. That's why we're here.
Wow, we're such good people.
We're such good people. We're such awesome guys. Oh man, let's pat each other more on the back. It's you're such a good guy, Josh. Oh, you're so handsome. Okay.
Oh God.
I think on that note, it's time that we close down this episode of episode 13. Man, time flies, of the Boot Nerds podcast. Of course, guys, another shout out goes out to our sponsors, at eliteduels.com. Don't forget that if you're into esports gaming or want to get into esports gaming and you want to add a little bit of, sprinkle and fun on top of it, it's a very good way of getting into enjoying the fantasy side of things even more. It's a very exciting addition. And you can, of course, get the sweet deal if you use the coupon code NERDS. And follow all the information in the link right down below. Josh, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna watch, what's gonna hurt in throwing $1 in there, and hey, maybe you win $20 at the end of it. Just makes everything more exciting.
Exactly. So don't forget to go and check that out if you're watching anyway. I mean, why wouldn't you try to do that? It sounds pretty fun. And also, while you're at it, don't forget. We said it before. Leave us a like on the video if you had a good time. Don't forget to ask some questions so we can get directly out to you and reply to all your awesome questions. And so we have something to talk about for the next couple of episodes in the foreseeable future. Also, don't forget that if you want to watch daily videos that are occasionally pretty funny, Josh is doing a lot of awesome stuff that you can follow if you click his channel right over there. You should also don't forget to go and watch Unisport Web TV, where I'm fooling around doing all sorts of stupid shit, meeting the stars and reviewing stuff. That's right over there. And finally, don't forget to go and subscribe with the notifications on to the biggest, the best, and the best podcast there is on the tube, the Boot Nerds podcast. The bubble is going to be right in the middle. All you have to do is click it, click the little bell notification button, and go write some questions, ask some questions, and we'll see you in the next one. With that, I'm JayMike, and I approve this message.
Later.